Labor in capitalism not only mediates the interactions of humans and nature, then, but also constitutes a historically specific social mediation, according to Marx. Hence, its objectifications, commodity, capital, are both concrete labor products and objectified forms of social mediation. The social relations that most fundamentally characterize the capitalist form of social life are thus very different from the qualitatively heterogeneous social relations, such as kinship relations, that characterize other forms of social life. The fundamental forms of social relations constitutive of capitalism are peculiarly quasi-objective and formal, and are characterized by a dualistic opposition of an abstract general homogeneous dimension and a concrete particular material dimension, both of which appear to be natural rather than social. In Marx's mature works, then, the notion of the essential centrality of labor to social life should not be taken to mean that material production is the most essential dimension of life, or of social life in general, or even of capitalism. Rather, it refers to the historically specific constitution by labor in capitalism of a form of mediation that fundamentally characterizes that society. Because this mediating activity is not a characteristic intrinsic to laboring activity, it does not and cannot appear as such. Instead, when the commodity is analyzed, its historically specific dimension, value, appears to be constituted by labor in general without any further qualifications, the expenditure of human brain, muscles, nerves, hands, etc. In other words, within the framework of Marx's analysis, the concrete dimension both expresses and veils the abstract dimension, and as a result, what is historically specific, the socially mediating function of labor in capitalism, appears transhistorical, as socially ontological. This is an initial determination of what Marx refers to as the fetish forms of capitalism. It is the basis of all approaches that transhistoricize the socially constituting role of labor in capitalism, whether affirmatively, as in classical political economy and traditional Marxism, or negatively, as in the dialectic of enlightenment. The historically specific form of mediation at the heart of capitalism is constituted by determinate forms of practice, but becomes quasi-independent of the actors. The result is a new form of social domination, one that subjects people to increasingly impersonal, rational imperatives and constraints that cannot adequately be grasped in terms of the concrete domination of social groupings such as class or institutional agencies of the state or of the economy. Like power as conceptualized by Foucault, this form of domination has no determinate locus and appears not to be social at all. Moreover, it is not static, but temporally dynamic. In Capital, Marx treats the historically dynamic character of capitalism as historically specific, grounded in the double character of the underlying social forms of capitalism. It's crucially important to note in this regard that the distinction Marx makes in the Grundrisse between value and real wealth reappears in the first chapter of Capital as between value and material wealth. Material wealth is a function of a number of factors in addition to labor, such as knowledge, social organization, and natural conditions. Value, the dominant form of wealth in capitalism, is constituted by human labor time alone, according to Marx. Their dialectic, the dialectic of value and use value, becomes historically significant with the emergence of relative surplus value and gives rise to a very complex, nonlinear historical dynamic which underlies modern society. On the one hand, this dynamic is characterized by ongoing transformations of production and more generally of social life. On the other hand, this historical dynamic entails the ongoing reconstitution of its own fundamental condition as an unchanging feature of social life, namely that social mediation is ultimately effected by labor, and hence that living labor remains integral to the process of production regardless of the level of productivity. The historical dynamic of capitalism ceaselessly generates what is new while regenerating what is the same. This dynamic both generates the possibility of another organization of social life and yet hinders that possibility from being realized. Marx grasps this very complex historical dynamic with his category of capital. The historically specific abstract form of social domination intrinsic to capitalism, then, is the domination of people by time. This form of domination is bound to a historically specific abstract form of temporality, abstract Newtonian time, which is constituted historically with the commodity form. The temporality of capital's dynamic, however, is not only abstract. The dialectic of the value and use value dimensions changes the determination of what counts as a given unit of time. The movement here is not simply a movement in time, but it's a movement of time. And this I term historical time. Both abstract time and historical time are constituted historically as structures of domination. Within this social universe, people appear doubled. On the one hand, as commodity owners, they are subjects, free from relations of personal domination and equal to all other subjects. On the other hand, they are unfree, constrained by social forms of domination that appear external and objective. This historically specific double character of personhood in capitalism can be and has been transhistoricized and ontologized, for example, by Durkheim with his notion of homo duplex.